Welcome once again to Daddy Diary. I'm your host Sheena alongside,
Flavian Chachal.
yeah, yet another exciting episode today. I'm so happy. Last week, if you missed our topic of discussion, find out what Daddy Daddy was talking about. It was very interesting. It was a bit heat up. Those we hot. We are sorry.
We apologize.
We are sorry, we didn't mean to. But either way, that was expected to be discussed. And if you feel like you want to challenge us concerning that topic that we discussed last week, it'll be good. It'll be good. We'll take it positively, and it's always good to learn. Do you agree with me?
I do.
Yes. Today we have a very interesting topic, and it is dealing with traumas.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a back and forth with Fabian about this dealing with trauma thing. And I'm sorry I'm gonna hit on you back. Aha. Fabian, I need you to tell me, how do you deal with traumas, or what are traumas for those who don't understand?
Do you remember this? The definition of
You don't
trauma.
necessarily have to say the English
The
definition, but just say what you understand.
the psychological.
Aha. Now you're talking. You're speaking like a psychologist, and then a psychological explanation to it.
So trauma is basically a behavioral response to something bad that happened to you in the past.
Okay.
So if maybe something that wasn't so nice happened to you,
Yeah.
and then it affects how you behave to date, then that's trauma.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, but I feel like this trauma thing has actually been overused.
Oh my God. Everyone, and people are actually misbehaving and saying they are traumatized. and it annoys me so much. You'd find someone is just an irresponsible adult and they're like, oh, it's trauma.
Yeah.
It's a horoscope. I don't know, Scorpio. What is that? And especially childhood trauma. Oh my God,
No,
everywhere.
when they say it's horoscopic, what do they mean by that?
I don't know. You know how the star signs, Leo,
Oh,
Libra.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so people link that and childhood trauma, and then they're like, no, it's just my horoscope. I am like that. But in the real sense, people are just irresponsible. There's no trauma.
There's no trauma?
Okay.
I feel it's there. Considering like,
The victim mentality is trauma.
okay.
Yeah, no, the fact that they don't want to actually own up to their mistakes and agree, but now they're blaming something else. I think that's trauma too, because why do you want us to pity you or something? Why can't you just fix your ways as an adult? Why do you have to blame? Okay, I know it's unfair,
But could it be sometimes like you go through it and you don't know that there's some certain behavior that you have actually changed, and those change of behavior makes you feel like you're okay, but to other people sometimes you might not notice that there is that behavioral change, but people might notice that from you. So could it be that there's something that triggered that?
I get your point,
Yeah.
and you have like a really good point right there, because sometimes you'd find someone thinks that that's just how they are,
Yeah.
but it's a trauma response.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like for instance, okay, I don't know. I've just been reading somewhere today, and someone is like, people who are loners
Yeah.
are responding to not having anyone to rely on
Yeah.
in the past.
Yeah.
So now they had to depend on themselves. So even when they grow up, they don't trust anyone enough to actually let them in and let someone love them.
Okay.
I have a friend of mine, she's a firstborn.
Yeah.
So anytime you give her a compliment, she's like, she
Yeah.
if you want to help her do something, if for instance you're with her in the house, she wants to do all the cleaning. If you're going shopping, she wants to carry everything. And it's actually like subconsciously. So sometimes I'm like, why don't you let people help you?
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh wow, it's actually a thing to let people help you. Now we figured that
Yeah.
it's because she has been like the firstborn and all, so she has been having the responsibility of having to bring up her siblings. So now she thinks that life is like that and that she should do everything by
By
herself.
herself.
And you know, well, being a firstborn child, you don't get so many compliments unless you are a planned child.
Please, don't go there because I'm a fast one.
I'm a firstborn too.
What is this thing with fast ones? Do you think like we some of us were traumatized growing up, like for instance responsibility, and made us somehow authoritative in some type of way. Growing up, once you've taken that responsibility, we feel like we can be authoritative by everyone, and we feel like we can dictate everything, and feel like we can always sort everything out. Do you think we can term that as trauma? Considering how we were brought up. For instance, my growing up was actually very, very tough. Like my mom would beat me up like very, like naked, tying my hands and legs on the bed and tap on me like
Girl, are you sure you're okay?
Yes, very much okay.
I'm going to have to tell you I'm dropping, I have a spot and then drop you off at a therapist because no, that's too much.
I think I didn't take it as too much. Yes, it was too much. Come to think of it, I wouldn't be disciplining my children like that. But it is something I came to deal with because I was like, okay, fine. Maybe I was wrong, but she went to the extreme when it comes to discipline. And I don't know if it has affected me like right now because I never felt it in any way. Unless someone tells me, there's some behaviors like you have that are actually questionable. And so far I haven't received that apart from maybe another thing which I'm going to talk about it later, but not now. It's a topic of another day. Maybe that one maybe that story triggered me somehow because sometimes I think about it. Relatives, living with relatives, and I'm like, okay, I'm still afraid of like relatives today. I'm still afraid of um, leaving my children with a man in the house in form of trusting that relative or trusting that person because I have a daughter. So when it comes to childhood trauma, that is what I need to understand because we don't understand this. We tend to use it a lot. Like right now, people go through a lot of things and they blame it on childhood trauma. And people say it's childhood trauma when sometimes it ain't childhood trauma.
But come to think of it,
Yeah.
do you know that most firstborns
Yeah.
were not really planned for, and it actually made no, no. Hear me out. Hear me out. Before before you throw the stones at me, just hear me out. Have you seen these memes that say that most of you made your fathers settle for women they didn't like or something
Jesus
between?
Christ! Ouch! Now you're even spoiling it.
No, because why would your mom beat you up like that?
No. Like, I'm not. Let me tell you.
Because that was so wrong.
I know it was wrong. I wouldn't discipline my child that way. But I came to realize I'm not the only one who was disciplined like that. People growing up during my time, like even my friends, their parents were rather, should I say, ruthless. I'm sorry, mom, I'm using that word, but that's how it came out. Like right now, if I think back, it it came out ruthless. Like the beatings were ruthless. Like you don't expect.
The
I'm really trying
urge,
to be polite here because
the urge to ask you, did you die?
No, I didn't die. I have a friend of mine who the mother one time took a razor blade and cut her. Like, I'm gonna cut you, I'm gonna cut you. And she actually did that. Like cut her and then took salt and placed it on it, like so that
Do you think our mothers were traumatized too?
I don't know. And that is why I really want to know. For instance, if you're dealing with childhood trauma, how do you deal with it?
Okay. I didn't have a smooth childhood either.
Okay.
I had to stay with my relatives and other stories.
Yeah.
So when I grew up, and then I got pregnant at 19. But at that moment, I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So in my defense, I was immature and uneducated. So as I began getting educated and now actually maturing, I realized that me falling into the arms of the first man who, opens his hands towards me, like me actually going like going into
All
his
in.
embrace and going all in to that extent, I realized that if you didn't get the love and attention growing up, anyone who shows you anything close to that, because come to think of it,
Yeah.
if for instance you come from a home where they keep insulting you
Yeah.
or something,
Yeah.
and then a man outside here calls you beautiful,
Yeah.
so in your head you're like, oh wow, so he actually likes me. And in that moment, you're like, he's good.
Yeah.
Everyone else is.
I
So
know.
you go all in.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think if maybe it was different, maybe I wouldn't have. But I'm not regretting.
You wouldn't have.
Never, I wouldn't have gotten pregnant or actually gotten into a relationship with,
Yeah. Yeah.
with someone when I was that young.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not regretting and I'm not proud of it.
Yeah.
So I got my kid and then now I realized that it's going to be a cycle. Because here I was a single mom.
Yeah.
And now my kid,
Yeah.
he's going to miss a father figure. He's
Yeah.
going to. So I was feeling so bad for him. So, and I was unstable emotionally. So I decided to go to therapy.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure at what point my breaking point would be.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me go and do some therapy.
Yeah.
So I went to therapy. Oh, my first session, I didn't talk. I cried the entire 3 hours. And when I was done, and the therapist is talking to me, and I smiled, and she's like, oh, you can actually smile. It was bad. So I did the therapy.
Yeah.
I was happy to actually open up about everything that happened to someone who doesn't know me and wasn't judging me and was willing to listen and was actually motivating me to say more.
Right.
So I opened up about it. I told her everything.
Yeah.
But of course, therapy, they don't really. She's literally holding your hand.
How long was your therapy?
It was 3 months.
3 months.
And okay, I have commitment issues. I don't know if I have low self-esteem or if I have, I don't know. So after the 3 months, I was tired. So later on, I was having a conversation with my best friend and we realized that I didn't heal. Now I managed to explain my behavior. That's what psychology does to you.
Yes.
And therapy is entirely psychological.
Yes.
So I realized that I managed to explain behavior. I'm like, oh, so I react like this because I grew up like this.
Yeah.
Or I'm defensive like this because I've grown up and I'm used to people accusing me like that.
Correct.
You see? Yeah. And some of it actually took a failed relationship to know what was going on.
Sure.
Because you're with someone, I have a kid, and then he's with me, and I'm behaving some type of way, and he's like, oh, we have a problem here. And so in my head, I'm like, if you feel like you can't deal with it, you can just leave. Because I'm used to people leaving. So I want you to stay, but I'll tell you to leave. You see?
But let me ask you, I'm sorry for interjecting, but let me ask you, after the 3 months of therapy, did you continue falling up after that? When you realized that the triggers, that when you were triggered, you realized that, okay, you haven't healed yet. So did you continue with the therapy?
No, actually, here's what happened.
Yeah.
I went for therapy for 3 months. I wasn't seeing anyone at the moment.
Yeah.
I had gone to church. I was like, my life was literally my bed, in the classroom, in church. That was my life. I didn't have, and I used to watch a lot, to escape from my reality.
Correct.
So after a while, when I stopped watching, when I stopped going to class, going to church, going to bed, and actually began talking to people, I realized that, oh, I just didn't have the triggers.
Right.
Now, when I have the triggers, I realize I
Right.
haven't healed,
Wow.
but at least I can identify where it's
Why?
coming
Oh,
from and
correct.
why.
Yeah.
You see?
Wow.
So I realized that, and I was laughing about it with my best friend some time ago, and she was like, "We should go to good therapy, like the one. What's the name of this lady?
Which lady?
There's this TikToker. What's her name? She's like big at shattering bunda. What's her name? I've forgotten her name. Rono ZP.
Oh,
So she went for therapy. So my friend was like, we should also look for a good therapist and go for adult therapy like chronozipi. Now that we know what is going on,
yes.
now we have separated it in boxes. We're like, this one came from here, so now we should go start up unpacking the boxes one by one.
Okay.
But again, another thing is, I didn't want to go back to therapy because I didn't want to be dependent on therapy. Because now something would happen, and I'm like, oh, I'm writing it down. I'm going to tell my therapist about it.
Yeah. So
So
you learned how to deal with it.
not really. I noticed that I've become over dependent on it.
Uh-huh.
And to date, I still don't know how to deal with things. I just pile it up and then I'll cry about it like a month later when I'm crying about other things. So it's
Wow.
still not bad. But I know what is going on, but now how to deal with it.
Is the problem. Guys, we have a problem. The
We
problem
do.
is how to deal with trauma. It's something that we still don't know how to deal with. If you feel like you can actually help us on how to deal with trauma, kindly assist us on how to deal with trauma, because she went for therapy and couldn't get any help after that. As much as she knew there was a problem here, she still didn't follow up with it and still don't know how to deal with it. She doesn't want to be over dependent, and I'm very sure there's another person who is just like Flavian there. So if you feel like you can share it with us, kindly please help us and let us help another person. Otherwise, thank you so much. It has been good, right?
Yeah.
It has been good, and thank you so much for listening to us on Dirty
Thank
Diary. I've been your host, Shina, alongside.
And Flavian.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.